Do you feel like it's hard to focus? Do you feel like your thoughts are going around and around and you can't actually focus on what you're supposed to be doing, or you're scattered, you're going here, there and everywhere? You might be studying and as an older person or even a younger person and you're finding it hard to focus. Well, we're going to talk about the yi, and particularly this video is for women, so women's health and the intellect in Chinese medicine. Welcome to the video. I'm Marie Hopkinson, a herbalist and an acupuncturist, and I've had over 23 years experience helping people in my practice in Bayswater, Western Australia. I am a herbalist there where I feel patients' pulses and do pulse-based herbal medicine at Bespoke Medicine. Now, I also run a herbal tea company called Metro Health and Medicine. And I have had many years experience treating patients, but I also have had a lot of experience teaching Chinese medicine. So I'm going to draw from that wisdom in this video today, and we're going to talk about how the intellect is part of your psyche in Chinese medicine, and it's part of the earth element, how that relates to actually digestion, and particularly for women, like what is the physiology for women's physiology, like what's different about women to men that makes us more susceptible to some of these things and how we can actually help it. So there's always stuff in my videos about how you can treat it yourself, how you can maintain or prevent things from getting worse, and when it might be the right time to kind of see a practitioner and what they might even be able to do for you. So buckle your safety belt because it's going to be a bit of an in-depth kind of video today. So the yi is a spiritual resource. Now, what does that mean? The Chinese medicine has 5 elements, okay, and this is wood, fire, earth, metal, water. They go in that order. And the earth element, its spiritual resource, is called the intellect or the yi. Now, there's a few things within this, and it takes a bit of sort of an in-depth to kind of really delve into this and get into it. It can relate to intuition as well, sort of that inner knowing, and a lot of women are very in tune with that, and we often call this, now coincidentally or not, we often in the West call this a gut feeling. And why I love that is because in Chinese medicine, your earth element that relates to that intellect and what we would say that gut feeling is directly related to digestion. So the earth in a physical sense is your stomach and your spleen. Now those two organs are in cahoots together in Chinese medicine doing digestion. The spleen in Chinese medicine provides the fire or the qi. And if you've ever been to an acupuncturist and you've had diarrhea or looser stools, not properly formed or sticky stools, something like that, they probably said you've got spleen qi deficiency, or bloating is another symptom that can kind of be a part of that. And a TCM common diagnosis is that spleen qi deficiency or dampness, or both of those things. And everyone loves dampness on this channel. I don't know if they love dampness, but a lot of people seem to have dampness. And it's just because it's so common to feel that bloated and that heaviness and that foggy headedness. Well, it's all connected. It's all connected to that spleen qi. But what's different about it for women? Because I've got lots of other videos on your spleen qi, and you can definitely go and watch those if you want to. But for women, we tend to be the nurturer. That's our nature, is to nurture. And that is the earth elements like psyche. If you go into the 5 element types, the nature of the earth type is that nurturing mother type of archetype. The person that wants to bring others together. That's earth. So for some people, they're doing a lot of this stuff and that can overstrain them in that area. So yeah, so that gut feeling. There's some aspects of that can be a metal element aspect, but part of that gut feeling is the inclination that you just, or an idea. So you might think, well, where did that idea come from? It just sort of came to me. It's like an intent, or in some aspects, an ideation can be part of that as well, something you're thinking about doing. But just in this aspect of this gut feeling, that can be related to the earth element. And for women, they tend to have this as a heightened sense more than men, right? They tend to be more in touch with ability to feel feelings. Now, I'm being quite general here. I'm not saying men can't feel feelings or have a gut feeling or that kind of stuff, but It is something that's innate to women's nature, is to be nurturing and to be aware of the feelings of others and not aware of their own feelings. They're more attentive to others in the room than themselves. And that's truly an earth element kind of nature. And this leads us to often neglecting ourselves for the benefit of others. Now, is that always wrong? No. There's times that's what women do as mothers. Like, I see this a lot, with in modern times now. You see on social media lots of things like, I've got to have my me time, or I'm always looking after everybody else. But that is part of the job. Now, I'm not a mother, so I don't want this to come across harsh or wrong or anything like that, because I'm not saying there's a right way to do it or a wrong way to do it, but it is part of the job of being a mother that you have to look after other people sometimes in preference of them to you. Now, we don't want to neglect ourselves to the point where we're not able to help other people and it's not helpful to us. So this is a reminder to have that balance. There's going to be times where you just can't stop and go, yeah, I'd love to have a self-care day. I'd love to have a me day. I'd love to have a me time. But that might not be possible, and that might not be, actually, you might not need something. You might be able to get it in a different way than what you think you need to get it, right? But there might be times where you do need to focus on yourself. The main idea is that, when you're in the plane and the oxygen masks come down, hopefully they don't come down, not in that situation, but if they do, you're told to put your mask on first before you help others. Why is that? Because the people who need help, they're not going to be able to do it on their own, and there's only a limited amount of time. Those seconds count, and if you pass out because you don't have oxygen, there's no way you're going to be able to help them, and they probably can't help themselves. So it makes sense sometimes to put yourself first in some scenarios when you need to. So how can we look after ourselves as women who are caregivers for others, who are the nurturers, who are often not putting ourselves first? And often I see this with some women that come to me in the clinic in these kinds of scenarios. So they have spent a long time looking after someone else, and that other person has either passed away, which is really sad, or they've gone through a relationship breakup, and all that time that they were in that scenario of it being very stressful, very traumatic, very difficult, or just taking up a lot of time, they just didn't have the space, the mental space, or the time, or the money, or the resource to look after themselves, so actually go and make an appointment for themselves. And then they kind of go through a season of going, okay, now I've got to take stock. Now I've got to look after myself. And I think that's very healthy to do that. And in some scenarios, you just don't you've only got a limited amount of time in your day, in your week, and you may not have time to really, do all the things that you'd like to do, that you'd want to do. So don't feel guilty about that. Don't feel bad about that. If that's happened to you and you're watching this video because you're thinking, I should have looked after myself before now, and now I feel bad about that. Well, don't feel bad about that. You've come here, you're at this point now. And that's what I'd even say to my patients. I'd say, look, this is where you're at now. We're going to help you where you're at now. Now, if you're in the midst of all that and you think, oh, what can I do? Like, I really should be, I can feel my own health deteriorating all the meanwhile I have to look after these other people. Or you're finding that your intellect, which is what we're really talking about here for this spiritual resource of the yi, is struggling. You might be a student, a mature age student. Now, in my job of teaching, I've seen this many, many, many times. And my heart goes out to those students because they really, really want to do well. They really genuinely want to do well, but they're struggling compared to other students who are just sort of like easy come. It seems like they've got easy come, easy go. Now, they might not have that, but people who are younger who don't have all the encumberments of that. Now, I remember when I was studying Chinese medicine, I would have struggled to learn it as good as I did, I think, if I had kids or if I had other encumberments. And I was very fortunate that my parents let me live at home with them for quite a decent amount of time. Now, I was kind of person who wanted to move out ASAP, but I was still living at home for the first 1 year, I think, at least 1.5 years of uni. Anyway, what I'm getting at is that your intellect can serve you here, as in if you're getting that inkling, and you probably, if you've come to this video, you must have, or the inkling has come to you. Sometimes with YouTube, it seems to know more about you than you know about yourself. Well, that's another story. That's another kind of video. So you've got to pay attention to that instinct, that inkling. It might be telling you something that you really need to hear and nudging you in the place of, hey, go look after yourself, go do something to help yourself. And I'm going to give you some great tips about how you can do that, even in the midst of the busy time, even when you're looking after other people. Before we do that, I just want to give you a quick little ad break, if you like, about my new course that's opening up in Chinese dietetics. The enrollments are open now, and it's a great way for you to support yourself. You can support this channel. We don't run ads on this channel for other things, but I do have a bunch of courses that I offer, and you can click the link below to find out more. The Chinese dietetics is live. You log in to the Zoom, you can be part of it, you can ask questions and have them answered, and we're going to be talking about all about Chinese diet therapy, which is using foods as medicine and learning how to nurture and nourish your body through all the seasons of life. And if you're looking after other people in your house, you do have kids, it's going to be great. It's going to teach you all about that. There's a longer video on the link that will tell you about what's in the course and how much it is and all the rest of it. And we'll get back to the video. So what can we do to actually help ourselves, even though we're busy, even though we're looking after other people? So what you need to do is, one, is recognize that this is a need for you. Recognize that this is important, because what's going to happen is tomorrow's going to happen, or even the rest of today, and life becomes very demanding. All the stuff that stuff is never going to stop. You can't wait for that stuff to stop and think, oh, well, I'll just wait for it to be a bit quieter. I'll just wait for it to be a bit less demanding. I'll just wait for Johnny to get better. I'll just wait for you'll be waiting a long time, because especially as a nurturing, if you're an earth element type of person, you'll be surrounded by people's needs your whole life probably, because people will naturally come to you because you're nurturing. So if they've got problems, they'll come to you because they've got those problems. If they need help, and you will see those needs that other people won't see and feel the need to respond. Like, for instance, earth element types of people often are cooking meals for other people. They are going and doing sick care for other people. They are doing the washing for people that can't do it themselves. These kinds of things. And these are great things to do. But what I'm getting at is those things will probably always be there, because you're going to always see the need, and others will see your ability to help and your willingness to help. And they may be leaning on you more and more and never stop, right? So you need to prioritize yourself. So number one is to recognize that you need to look after yourself. And number two is to prioritize yourself and say, at some point, it's okay for me to take this space, this time, this day, this hour, even this half an hour, for your own self. Now, how could that look? It could look like you organising a babysitter, so you can have time to go and do something for yourself once a week, half a day. Put your kid in daycare if you have to, or something like that, if you can. Now, you might not have the means to do that, but there might be people around you that would actually benefit from you passing that need onto them. Like, for instance, I'm a single person. I'm an auntie with both my two brothers sides of the family have kids, and I love looking after those kids, and it's not a burden to me. Like, I mean, I wouldn't want to look after them 7 days a week, but I love looking after them, and sometimes I take them for a weekend, and we do so many fun things together because it's novelty for me, and it's fun, and it's really good. I enjoy that, and that's probably giving them a break to do what they want to do, and everyone's a winner. So don't feel bad about asking for things. Now, sometimes if you're the person who's always giving, you might feel bad about asking. So this is your chance. This is Marie telling you you've got permission to ask. And sometimes you don't realize that actually that is benefiting others. Like, I look at my dad and my mum, but particularly my dad, like, he really has softened up with these grandkids, and he loves looking after them. He loves them, and like they love him as well. And they just like love to run onto his lap, and he'll just sit there when he's babysitting them, watching cartoons. He loves watching cartoons himself, and the kids will just do what they do, and everybody's happy. So, like, there's benefit in some of that stuff that you might not realise the benefit of it, okay? Now, I recognise everyone's circumstances are different, and look, you might say, well, that's all good for you, Marie, but I don't have any family. I don't have any brothers or sisters I could call on. I just don't have that. And I understand that. So what are some other things you could do? You don't have to make it super complicated, super hard. It could be something where, look, this is all I can manage or all I can do. But if I had the means or the time or the money, I would do this other thing instead. And that's okay. It's okay to do the little thing. The little thing might be 15 minutes outside and have a little stick of incense and sit there and just have your coffee and have a little bit of space. And that might be all you can manage at this time, and that's okay. So do what you can manage. But my point is, make a bit of time for yourself. Okay, so this is the first one. The second thing that's going to help your earth element a lot, your intellect, your ability to think through problems, is sorting out your diet. Now, what do we mean by that? So the Chinese dietetic advice, the general diet advice. Now, if you really want to sort out your diet, you can come to the course. Shameless plug there. But generally, you want to eat mostly warm, cooked and moist foods. Try and cook as much of stuff you can. Now, again, this is hard when people are busy. You think, no, Marie, well, I don't have time to cook every meal from scratch and make these gourmet meals. Don't have to be gourmet meals. The simpler the foods, the less ingredients is actually often healthier in Chinese medicine. You don't have to have complicated recipes, very, very rich flavors, this kind of stuff. So one of my favorite things to use is actually a slow cooker. Now, it's called a crock pot often in Australia, and you can get a big piece of meat and you can cover it with salt and pepper or some kind of spice mix if you like. Put that in there, put the lid on and let it go. You don't put any water in there with it, and you're going to make a nice slow cooked meat. Then that is super nourishing to you. Now, if you're a vegetarian or a vegan, you'll have to do something else. But if you're not, this is one of the most nourishing foods that your body can have, is slow cooked meat for your spleen and your stomach. There's heaps of reasons for this. Now, when you're busy and you're hungry, you sometimes open the fridge and you're like, I need to get the quickest thing I can because I don't have time to cook something up, right? And I love having that slow cooked meat in there that's cold, because I just take a piece off and sometimes I'll just eat it cold, or I'll put it in the microwave and just heat it up a little bit. So beef is one of the best foods like that. You can do it with chicken if you want to as well, or pork, but beef is my number one go-to. And what that will do is it'll give you something that you don't have to think about. It's protein only, so it's not going to spike your blood sugar. You're not going to sort of have this up and this down. You're going to have less chances of cravings. Some people think, I can't just eat meat in just one meal. There's no veggies in that. It's fine. It's good for you. Trust me, it's okay. Your body can synthesize what it needs out of the meat, right? So you're not having this as the only food either. Like this is just a meal that you'd have. And this is a way of you not having to go to the fridge and snack, or quickly have a sandwich, or quickly have, something that's like a frozen meal or something. So that piece of beef in that slow cooker can kind of make enough food for one person for 2 weeks, right? I mean, it won't last for 2 weeks, but like what I'm getting at is 2 people could eat off that for a week, probably, something like that. So that's a little hack. My other little hack that's kind of good for the protein is the hard-boiled eggs. So make some hard-boiled eggs and they're in the fridge, and then when you're hungry, you just kind of crack one, put it in your handbag, take it with you to the meeting, have a hard-boiled egg. That's one of my favourite go-tos. So those are some things. Now, another thing that we need to remember for ourselves when we're really busy is to hydrate, to remember to drink enough water, get some good quality water. Rainwater is the best water you can ever have. If you can't collect your own rainwater or get some nice rainwater, then do the best that you can with a filtering system and whatever, right? So like having that water is sometimes what your body needs, and you're just so busy, you're rushing around, you don't do that. So taking that water with you can kind of be helpful to do that. So what that's going to do is it's going to stop you from eating the wrong foods, because you're not going to be just hungry. So if you're eating that slow cooked meat, then you're just not, you're not sort of filling the hole the cake hole, as they say in Australia, with cakes, with sweet things, with other stuff, right? Sometimes we find ourselves going for things like coffee or tea when we're actually just thirsty for water. So have some water first if you haven't had water already. Now, those things might sound really simple, but it does actually work. And that's one option to start with. If you're a vegetarian or a vegan, there might be a favourite meal that you make. Now, making this might take more time, but you know what you can eat. And you might make that meal and then keep that in the fridge for that exact reason. So that then if you feel hungry in the day, you know you've got that there. Or what you could do is you can make that meal, do something that you can do in a slow cooker so you don't have to slave over the stove. And then you freeze up little portions of it so that you can quickly take it out of the freezer, should you feel hungry, and have that thing. If you find yourself when you're in that scenario of being hungry and busy that you're eating the wrong thing in that scenario, right? What we're saying is that those busy times are going to happen. You're not sort of feeling guilty saying, oh, well, in those busy times, I should be making a proper meal. No, because how can you? You don't have time at that time, and those busy times are going to happen. If you've got a kid that you've got to care for, you've got to, maybe you've got someone that's highly dependent, like they're disabled or something like that, and they need intense care, and there's just no time, or you've got 5 kids, or you're looking after, you're just really busy in your business. Maybe you're a career person and you just have a lot going on in your business. Like sometimes that happens to me in the day when I'm busy with patients. I can go from 8 o'clock in the morning until 4 o'clock in the afternoon, not have eaten anything at all. And if I'm doing the keto diet or carnivore diet, that's fine. That's kind of great for me. Maybe 2 o'clock I'll have something to eat. But that's where I got the idea of making that slow cooked meat from, because I was like, this is fantastic. I could just have it in the fridge, and at work, and then eat it in between the patients, kind of thing. Awesome. Winning. And you don't feel the low. You don't feel the blood sugar dip down after you've had the high. You just feel good and you're just not hungry anymore. And you're satisfied. So that's one of the things, right? So we're talking about the spleen chi, nurturing the spleen chi. It likes warm, it likes moist, it likes cooked. It doesn't like cold, dry and raw. So try or never have smoothies, or try your best to avoid the smoothies and the raw foods as best as you can, okay? Especially in winter and autumn. Spring and summer, okay, a little bit of raw is okay here or there, a little bit of colder things or fruit is not going to kill you, but if you've got weak spleen chi, you're better off not having those things. So yeah, this is kind of hopefully helping you understand that issue that we all face, even men and women face this, where we get busy and then we tend to default to potentially bad habits then. So we're trying to create better habits, knowing that we're going to be busy, knowing that we're going to be time poor or stressed, or, that sort of stuff is going to happen. And then we can kind of face it. So another thing that we want to think about with the yi, especially for women, is this overthinking and this anxious kind of mind. So your spleen and stomach do the job of digestion in food, but they also do the job of digesting thoughts. So your spleen energy is the earth energy, considered to separate pure and impure in terms of food, but it also does that with thoughts. So things come in and you're separating, should I keep this? Should I listen to this? Should I pay attention to this thing? Should I just let that go? And for some people, they can't let it go, or it's so hard. And a thought comes in and they can't let go of that thought, and it's kind of ruminating over and over and over, and they're overwhelmed with this thinking, with this. So there's no easy fix, right? I can't in good conscience say, well, you do this 3-step thing and your thoughts will improve. But I will give you some tips to help get us in the right track for this. And the first one actually comes back to the one I just mentioned before. For many people, their digestion and their gut health has a lot to do with their thinking, with their thoughts, with that anxiety, with that ruminating sort of thoughts. So if you haven't already, try and go on to that kind of Chinese medicine diet. So you want warm, cooked and moist, stay away from cold, dry and raw, blander foods, simpler foods, with some exceptions depending on your constitution. So if your Chinese medicine practitioner has given you a specific diet, we'll follow along with that. Okay, I'm not saying don't do that. But definitely sugars, complex foods, packet foods, things that they will cause you to have this high and then this low. And when you have that high, you maybe have a little bit of a surge of energy, and then when you have that low, you're either thinking about, well, where's the next thing? And it's almost that addictive quality of like, oh, what's next? Or then you don't feel good in your tummy, and it's affecting your thinking. Then you're just not feeling motivated anymore. You just think, oh, I can't be bothered with this task anymore. Or it's hard to stay focused and stay connected to what you're doing. There's lots of research and research in terms of actual proper Western research, but there's also lots of evidence from high-performing people saying they work better in a state of ketosis than they do in a state of not that. So what that means is when you're not having blood, sugar, insulin in your blood system, and you're having that spike of because of insulin's there, you're kind of not in a clear a state as when it's not present. So this is why intermittent fasting has become so popular for people that are deep thinkers or deep workers. What that means is they want to sit there and say, right, I'm going to try to puzzle out this problem or really think about this thing. So that's definitely a part of the spleen chi system. How does it benefit? How do you benefit that stomach, right? Often it's by emptying it out. It doesn't get benefited by more and more and more food going into it because it has to do all this work and you feel tired. Anyone who's ever given a conference speech knows that the afternoon slot is the worst slot to be given because people are tired. They've had their lunch and they're like, sleepy. Maybe 3 o'clock they perk up again because they've had a little afternoon coffee and they've digested all their food. But the slot, like the 1 o'clock, if they've got the lunch from 12 to 1 and then you've been given the 1 p.m. slot, that's the worst slot to be given. You're not the greatest speaker if that's your slot. Because people are tired and they're just sluggish and they're hard to focus, right? No offense to anyone who's been given that slot. I've been given that slot before too. So sometimes better than no slot. But what I'm saying is that is the nature of your digestive system. It's competing to digest food and it's competing to digest thoughts. So that's where you can mimic that fasting state for many people by just having protein first thing in the morning and avoiding carbs and certainly avoiding sugar. Now, carbohydrates turn into sugar, but you'll definitely get the massive spike from the sugar. Some people are okay on a small amount of like oats or some kind of congee or something like that in the morning. Depends on what you do. If you've got a really physical job and you're working that off, your physical labour, you might be better off. If you have to sit in an office, do your deep thinking and you've just had a big bowl of porridge, you're probably going to feel a bit sluggish and not great in your mind. So hopefully those things will help you somewhat to do that. Now, for some people, if all that stuff is going around in your mind and you can't make sense of it, you need some kind of system to help you get it out of your mind. For me, I like to write everything down. So I will get a blank piece of paper, an A4 piece of paper, and first thing in the morning, I will write down, this is what the things I'm going to do today. Like a to-do list, but like a priority list. Like, this needs to be done. And now, will I do all those things today? Most likely not, but I'll tick off the things, and then some of the stuff from that list I might put on tomorrow's list. But it gets it out of my head. It gets the stress out of me thinking, oh, I hope I don't forget this. And it might be something simple and easy that I should just remember. But if I'm worried that I might forget it, it's always going to be in my mind. And it's like I can't empty my mind out. So I find that list idea works really well. Just start buying reams of paper because you will use them. Anyway, so that's what I do. It may not work for you, but hopefully some of this stuff will help you. So this is what your spleen does. Your yi, your intellect is related to thinking, ideas, intention, that sort of ideation. Sometimes when we can't let go of a thing, we're just thinking and thinking. And it's also, your intellect the yi is related to memory, like the new memories and thinking about a problem, remembering things that you have to remember about that problem, about that issue, and particularly concentrating, right? like sitting there and being able to concentrate. So I hope this has been useful and helpful to you. If it has been, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for all the people who've helped us get to 10,000 subscribers just very, very recently. Really appreciate that. And I look forward to seeing you again on another video soon.